The final prophecy of Nostradamus. More than 400 years ago, a man sat alone in a dimly lit room in southern France. A single candle burned on his wooden desk. Shadows moved slowly across the stone walls, while the night outside remained silent. The man leaned forward and began writing strange lines onto a sheet of parchment. These lines were not ordinary sentences. They were mysterious verses, written in strange codes and symbols. The man's name was Nostradamus. For centuries, people have argued about his writings. Some believe he predicted great disasters, powerful rulers, and global conflicts long before they happened. Others say his words are simply vague poetry that people reinterpret after events occur. But there is one thing that continues to fascinate historians, researchers, and millions of curious readers around the world. Many believe Nostradamus left behind a final prophecy, a warning meant for a distant future, possibly our time. Michel de Nostredame, later known as Nostradamus, was born in the year 1503 in the south of France. At first, he was not a prophet or a mystic. He was a scholar. He studied mathematics, medicine, and astronomy during a time when Europe was struggling through one of the darkest periods in its history. Disease, war, and uncertainty surrounded everyday life. The Black Death had already devastated much of Europe, leaving entire villages empty and cities filled with fear. As a young doctor, Nostradamus traveled from town to town treating patients who were suffering from the plague. He used unusual medical techniques for his time, including hygiene practices that many other doctors ignored. Some reports say his treatments were surprisingly effective. However, tragedy soon struck his own life. Despite all his knowledge of medicine, Nostradamus could not save the people closest to him. His wife and children died during a plague outbreak. The loss changed him deeply. After this moment, Nostradamus slowly began turning away from medicine and towards something more mysterious: the study of the future. Late at night, he began conducting strange rituals in his study. Historical descriptions say he placed a brass bowl filled with water on his table. He would sit quietly for hours, staring into the surface of the water while candlelight flickered around the room. Some believed he was practicing a form of meditation. Others believed he was trying to see visions of future events. Whatever the truth was, Nostradamus soon began writing a series of short prophetic poems. Each poem contained 4 lines. These poems became known as quatrains. The language he used was extremely unusual. He mixed French, Latin, Greek, and even invented words. Sometimes he reversed the order of sentences or used symbolic references instead of clear descriptions. Because of this, his writings were almost impossible to understand directly. But that was intentional. During the 1500s, openly claiming to predict the future could be extremely dangerous. The church often accused such people of witchcraft or heresy. By writing his prophecies in coded form, Nostradamus protected himself while still recording his visions. In 1555, Nostradamus published a book titled Les Prophéties. Inside the book were hundreds of mysterious quatrains describing possible future events. The book quickly spread across Europe. Nobles, scholars, and even kings became curious about these strange predictions. One of the most famous stories connected to Nostradamus involves the death of King Henry II of France. In one quatrain, Nostradamus wrote about a young lion defeating an older lion during combat. The verse described a piercing wound through a golden cage. Years later, during a royal jousting tournament, King Henry II was struck in the eye by a lance after his opponent's weapon broke through his helmet. The king died from the injury days later. To many people, the prophecy seemed incredibly accurate. From that moment on, Nostradamus gained a reputation as a man who could see the future. Over the centuries, readers continued examining his quatrains. Some believed he predicted the rise of powerful leaders. Others thought he described devastating wars and global disasters. Certain interpretations claim he even foresaw modern events such as world wars or large-scale attacks. However, historians remain divided. Critics argue that Nostradamus wrote his predictions in such vague language that they could be interpreted to match almost any event. Believers disagree. They believe the patterns are too precise to be coincidence. Regardless of which side is correct, one thing is undeniable. The fascination with Nostradamus has never faded. Among the hundreds of quatrains he wrote, several seem to describe a dramatic turning point in human history. These verses speak of great fires, falling skies, and powerful conflicts between nations. Some interpreters believe these passages refer to a massive global crisis. Others believe they describe natural disasters or environmental changes that reshape the world. A few researchers even think Nostradamus hinted at technological transformations that humanity would struggle to control. But perhaps the most mysterious element of all is the suggestion that these events would occur in a distant future, long after his own lifetime. A time when humanity had reached extraordinary levels of power and knowledge. A time that sounds surprisingly similar to the modern world. One interpretation claims that Nostradamus believed humanity would eventually face a moment of decision. A moment where conflict, fear, and chaos could either destroy civilization or force it to change. In several quatrains, he describes shifting alliances between nations. He mentions fire falling from the sky and cities facing sudden destruction. Some readers connect these descriptions to modern weapons. Others believe the verses could represent natural cosmic events such as meteor impacts or solar storms. But the most chilling part of these predictions is not the disasters themselves. It is the suggestion that these events serve as a warning that humanity must learn from its past mistakes. Today, more than 4 centuries after Nostradamus wrote his mysterious book, the debate continues. Scientists study historical records. Researchers analyze the language of his writings. Some dismiss the prophecies entirely as creative speculation. Others believe that hidden inside those strange verses may be fragments of genuine foresight. Perhaps Nostradamus did not see the future exactly as it would happen. Perhaps he only saw symbols, fragments, or possibilities. But even those fragments were powerful enough to capture the imagination of generations. The final pages of Nostradamus's writings remain as mysterious today as they were in the 16th century. Some readers believe the last prophecies describe a world on the edge of transformation. A world filled with uncertainty, danger, and incredible technological power. A world where the future could take many different paths. And maybe that was Nostradamus's true message all along. Not a precise prediction, but a reminder. The future is never fixed. It is shaped by the choices humanity makes. And every generation believes it might be living at the moment when the prophecy finally becomes reality.